Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a los Encuentros.
Good morning. Welcome to Encuentros once again. I guess you know that a few days back, Judi Dench was here to receive the Donostia Award, and on the press conference, they asked him what was his secret to keep acting at his age, and he said, curiosity and illusion, words that I love and that define what we do here every day at TCM. Curiosity and illusion to know other new films and to watch realities that would otherwise be unknown. We have 6 film crews today, and please, I'd like to give them a warm welcome.
Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Our first guest today, Ashmai Fair, is from Vietnam, and the film is in a new director's film, The Third Wife, a film that is located in 19th century, and who's somehow inspired in his own her own family story.
No.
Sí.
No, de alguna manera, ¿cómo conoce la historia?
Did you hear the story from your family? Why was it so interesting that you decided to make it into a film?
So I grew up with my great-grandmother and my grandmother, and only women, and this was an environment that was very usual for me. I had all the women characters in the film are based on someone in my family history, and so as a child, I was told so many different anecdotes about what life was, in the 19th century and early 20th century. So I thought it was just a usual circumstance until I left Vietnam as a teenager to go studies overseas and realized that there was something unique about this, but also quite universal. So at first I thought I would write a memoir, actually, and it wasn't until I attended film school at NYU that my professors encouraged me to translate it onto the screen.
La historia a la que se refiere ella y la historia de la
The story you talk about is a story about a 14-year-old girl who is forced to marry a rich landowner, and he has to share his life with the other 2 wives of the landowner. Let's see some images of the film.
Làm sao biết khi nào mới thoạt án hả chị?
Đàn bà mỗi người một khác. Chị chỉ cảm thấy được khi anh Hùng mạnh bạo một chút. Mạnh bạo á?
A film about women who try to survive in a patriarchal society, a teenager who discovers love, desire, and the hardness, the roughness of the life that she's going to face, but in a very elegant way. She hasn't want to underline anything, but she has told the story with a very subtlety. Did you remove elements to suggest them and not make them obvious?
Can you tell me what kind of elements?
No, I can repeat that. It's a tragedy, but the tragedy is not evident. The tragedy is around, and I think that you tried not to show everything that happened, but suggesting it, just.
Yeah, I think fortunately the language of cinema is an amazing art that allows us to translate the emotional truth of the character without necessarily exposing everything. Yeah, there was no need to remove or add, I think, because the story and the characters told us where they wanted to go.
I think that the art, the decoration is really important in this film. I read that you finished the script just in the set, just before starting the shooting. Why it was so important, the decoration, in order to inspire you?
the landscape and the environment was such a big part of the movie, and because I grew up, you know, in Ho Chi Minh City, I needed to live in these places and felt what the pacing of the world was like, felt. And when we started pre-production for the film, so much of the script was transformed because we had the actors and we lived together for several weeks in the mountains on location, observing the customs and how life were lived back then. You know, we would live in costume and cook and have meals to learn about the feeling and the emotions, and a lot of the scenes that you see came out of that collaborative but also improvisational work.
Mm-hmm. I would like to ask you also about the actresses. Were they experienced actresses, or they were new, because they are amazing?
Thank you, gracias. With the exception of the first wife, everyone else is a non-actor or have had very little experience in cinema. The lead character was 12 years old when she took on this role, so she's never done anything like this before.
Mm-hmm. I think that Spike Lee has collaborated with it, with his foundation. How has been the help by Spike Lee, and what is like having the Spike Lee sale on your film? Because I think that it opens a lot of doors internationally.
Absolutely. He was my mentor and one of my teachers at NYU, and when he read the script and really liked it, and you know, told me to go and make it, he also gave us the very first grant, so we can start developing the film. And yeah, I owe a lot to Spike. I owe a lot to NYU. I owe a lot to my mentor Chen Anh Hong. You know, another very famous Vietnamese director who encouraged and supported and took me through his journey.
And what are your plans? You are planning to keep shooting in Vietnam or in the United States, or do you need to get back to your culture in order to tell stories?
You know, I love the theme of womanhood and childhood and child rearing, raising children. So I think, you know, I would love to spend my whole life exploring that, if possible, what it means to be a woman, especially with our current political climate. So I think no matter where the setting is, I think everyone can relate to this. And yeah, if there's a great story in Spain, then I will happily come here and work on that. So.
Bueno, pues esperamos que sí, que vuelva con sus próximas historias.
We hope she does. We hope she comes back with a story, a delicious film, The Third Wife, very elegant and subtle. Thank you for coming, for being with us today. We hope to see you in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Eso regatic. Bueno, pues nuestra siguiente película.
The next film is an Argentinian film, also a film about women. We are here with our crew, Las Hijas del Fuego, Daughters of the Fire, presented in the Zabaltegui 2 days ago. We still might be able to see it. We're with a film director, Albertina Carri. María Eugenia Marcet is one of the actresses.
Perdón, María Eugenia Marcet, que es una de sus actrices,
and Carolina Alamino, another of the actresses. Albertina, since I watched the film, I asked myself if it was a provocative film or it was just a film to enjoy of the pleasure of sexuality. It's provocative, but I don't know if that was the idea or it was just to celebrate sexuality. Well, the intention is to celebrate. It's a big celebration of sexuality, and I understand that it's very provocative because the story is not a story that we used to watch in a screen. So in that sense, it provokes. But it's absolutely celebrating film, and it's a necessary film. But I spend a lot of time talking about the film. But I think that the actress's opinion about this lesbian road movie is much more interesting. There's a lot of explicit sex images on the film. We're not used to watching this in commercial film. I don't know if you were experiencing that kind of films, or if the first time you filmed this kind of scenes. How did you live them? Hello. In the beginning, well, first we met. We met and we got to know each other, to be able to feel comfortable with each other and have that kind of confidence. So we did some works of how everybody comes, where you masturbating each other, and that's our classical male behavior, and we're not used to talking about that and doing that. We always keep our own intimate secrets. So we first broke that barrier to be able to work afterwards. Yes, the idea was to get closer and a collective closeness, and to ask each other about what we were ready to do and what we wanted to do. So it was, because the base of all would be to agree to that, to come to an agreement. So we work in that sense, and also during the filming, scene by scene, we had a strong communication and a constant exchange with Albertina. And I think it was just giving, compromising with adventure. But after the first day, something kind of just you kind of start to stop worrying. Well, let's watch some images of the film.
¿Qué cuento cuando cuento porno? Aunque me sea imposible escribir escena 1, creo que estoy escribiendo una película. Si una película siempre es un viaje, ¿quién puede escribirla mientras viaja? Me debería bajar de esta camioneta y correr montaña abajo para escribir. Escena 1.
Bueno, ahí arranca el viaje.
That's the beginning of the journey. A lot of characters are coming on the journey, and they film a porn film that has a very special end. One of the other interviews that you've given lately, the idea of doing a film, a lesbian film, did you feel it starting in 2015 when the attacks to the lesbian community were started? Well, I didn't quite say that. On the film, there's a scene where the girls are attacked and insulted. And a lot of people, because it's a celebrating film, a lot of people, or some people told me, did you need to include that scene? So from then on, for instance, in the 2015 March, lesbian and gay transsexual march, some young kids go by and told us, enjoy, because it's soon going to be over. So what I meant by that is that the political crisis and the brutal crisis that Argentina is going through with the arrival of that not very illustrated right wing, is it means that enables hatred in the society, deep hatred. So that's why I think this film is very important. I've been wanting to do this film for 20 years, and I haven't done it before because there wasn't a movement of women like we have today in Argentina, because Maru and Caro, they're actresses and also like the other girls in the film. Besides being actresses, they're feminists. Carol is anthropologist. Maru is a lawyer, works in the government, and that's quite relevant. So it's girls that give the whole body and they embody the whole feminist militants. They work for a better world, and the better world, this better world clearly implies resetting the world as we know it today. So it's very important to celebrate and to write celebrating texts. I created a film festival in Argentina called Asterisco, an international film festival, LGBTQ. Then I was the sub-director. Now I'm the programmer because I prefer to do films than direct festivals, because it's completely stressful to do festivals, film festivals. So that's why I congratulate all of the people who do these festivals. Making films is also stressful, but it's not it's more seldom. So during several years, I saw a lot of LGBT material from all over the world, and one of the things that impacted me and awoke my curiosity, that many of the gay films were there, and people really welcomed them. There were many intersex films, but people nevertheless were very happy, but lesbian films were very sad. All lesbian women were sad, and it was always very dramatic. So I felt the need. I felt that it was crucial to tell that it's not all about drama. And at some point at the films, we say that we look for a heritage and something contagious, and freedom and pleasure is one of the most contagious things. So the revolution we're looking for is anti-capitalist, anti-patriarchal. We're looking for is this. It's not like to provoke, or it's not something vain. It's only because it harms everybody, and it harmed us a lot, and we don't want to harm us any further in the future generations. So during all these films, you've done other things, like a porn film with Barbies. Yes, I did that in the year 2000. That was long ago. With Brimio. And the Daughters of Fire. Why did you choose that title? It's a novel by a French author, Gérard de Nerval, that speaks about female stereotypes, end of 19th century. It's just inspired on this novel. It starts on the Antarctica, on Tierra de Fuego, the land of fire, the far end of south end of Argentina. Do you want to tell something else more solid about the origin of the title? Well, you need explanations. Well, we liked it, the title. Thank you very much for this film that celebrates sex, pleasure, friendship, and freedom, ultimately. You won't be indifferent to this film if you watch it. We've had you in the festival, but we still hope to see you again in the future. Thank you very much.
Bueno, pues de Tierra de Fuego nos vamos.
Well, from the land of fire, we travel to Denmark for the following film, Neon Heart, a film shown in the new directors section, and we're here with the new director, Laurits Flensted Jensen, and one of the protagonists, Niklas Hersker. Neon Heart is a film that talks about lost characters, the story about three people who interact. And today I read on the festival's diary that there were stories that felt made you feel opposed, encountered films. You didn't have answers to what you felt or what you wanted to turn. Was that the origin of the film? The opposed feelings.
Well, I think all my filmmaking is about opposite feelings, and I thought this story grew from a lot of fragments, all surrounding sexual taboos as a main theme, and these scenes were all like asking challenging questions of perception upon like norms and standards of sexuality, and I wanted like the audience to engage with the film and to be able to have these opposite feelings, so they wouldn't just be my opinion about the subject, but they could spawn their own feelings and opinion. Yeah.
Sí, una película, como decía, con tres personajes.
Que said a film with three main characters. A person that is rehabilitation, an ex-porn star, and a young kid who is tempted by the hooligans, by the extreme right hooligans.
Hvad står der? Det kan du se. Hvad står der? Success is temporary, loyalty is forever. Okay, det er alvorligt. Ja.
You could be younger, you could be 16.
Yeah.
Get lots of clicks on barely legal. Are you doing now?
No.
You broken up?
Værsgo, pus lys ned, gang.
Ja, hvad her?
Three characters who try to search and find their way. The structure of the film, it's a very fragmented film, temporarily fragmented, chronologically. It's like a mosaic, like a puzzle who fits together. Why did you choose this kind of structure?
I think it relates to what we just discussed before. I consider the film to be a big puzzle, and some of the pieces are missing. There's some holes, and the film jumps in time, and of course things happen and occur in those holes that you're not told about, and you have to make up those missing pieces yourself, and in that way the film becomes a subjective experience for everyone who's watching it.
Mm-hmm. Él es Niklas, que interpreta, como digo,
he's Niklas, and he plays one of the protagonists. I'd like you to speak about your character. It's a character who takes care of others, Down syndrome kids, but in fact is incapable of taking care of himself. How is that? How do you live this contradiction of your character?
I think my character is very contradictory in all the aspects of his choices, the way he takes with one hand and he gives with another. He's very complex in that way. He takes care of these guys, but he can't take care of himself. But he wants to do the best for them, but he's hurting himself while he's doing it. So it was for me a very interesting character to play, because it has two sides to every scene. It's like two sides of why he's doing it. He's doing it for himself, but he's also trying to do it for other people, so he's justifying it in some way. So it's a good role. It's nice as an actor to play that.
Mm-hmm. Y una curiosidad, tú te llamas Niklas.
It's curiously, your character is also called Nicholas. Why?
It's because the two fellow actors that I'm playing with, and I'm playing the caretaker of, they have Down syndrome. So I got to know them before the film. We spent a lot of time with them. I went bowling with them, and I got to know them as me, my own character, Niklas. And it's very difficult for them, if I had another name, because we were shooting a film, because they can't really cope with that in some way. So if I was Niklas in the lunch break, and then Jesper when we were saying action, they would be confused. They would be like, look at Laurits and say, what's going on? Why are we changing a name? I mean, and my grandmother is also in the film, and she has dementia.
That's your real grandmother.
See, huh? And she has dementia, Alzheimer's, so she would also be confused if I wasn't called my own name. So that's why.
We talked about the Daughters of the Fire, about films who make the people uncomfortable, and I think this is the case with Neon Heart. For instance, the scene where you take the two kids with syndrome to a whorehouse or a prostitute, or when an handicapped tries to abuse the woman. I think this was really premeditated to make the people feel uncomfortable with characters that seem to be weak, but that they can be cruel at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's another very interesting part of the film, that we see both. We usually see, or very often we see, people with handicap who are portrayed as good, and I thought it would be interesting to portray them as also being cruel, showing a nasty side of them, because this is actually a way of humanizing them to do that. And the same thing is the case with the scene in the brothel. It asks a general question about sexuality and what you as the audience think and your perception of their sexuality when you're challenged with that scene or confronted with that scene. Yeah.
Y otro de los temas centrales de la película es.
Another of the.
I think it's also a very beautiful scene. I think it's not only uncomfortable, the scene in the brothel.
It can be both,
exactly.
Beautiful and uncomfortable. Uncomfortable comes from our ideas, not perhaps from what we see on the screen. Yeah. So it's our feelings. Yeah. So otra de los temas.
Another of the subject the film deals with is the extreme right, the ultras, the hooligans, that somehow try to capture one of the characters. Why did you choose this to introduce this subject, this issue? Are you especially worried about this in Denmark? How the extreme right is advancing and progressing in Europe?
Well, I'm not so. I mean, it's hooligans on the surface, but what's underneath the surface is the fellowship and masculinity that they're kind of exploring, and that was actually what I was interested in, and also the ending point of the story, where I'm not going to tell you the ending, but there's a.
No, please.
There are two friends who are planning to commit a hate crime, and I think it's very interesting also, like the sexual theme of the film, that they're actually trying, they're stepping others, mocking other people's sexuality to promote their own sexuality in that scene. Yeah.
Pues muchísimas gracias a los dos por traernos esta película.
Thank you very much for presenting this film, beautiful and uncomfortable, because both the beauty and the uncomfort can come together, and they do. Very good luck for the future, for this film and for other films, and I hope to see you in San Sebastián with other projects. Thank you very much.
Bueno, pues nuestra cuarta invitada, hola, ¿qué tal?
Our fourth guest, Elena López Riera. She is from Alicante in eastern Spain, and she's here in Zabaltegui with a short film called Los que desean, Those Who Desire, a film that speaks about the Colombian culture, and through that speaks about many other subjects. Hello, I didn't know anything about Colombian culture. Maybe I'm not the only one. Tell us about this Colombian culture or Colombian culture. Hello to everybody. Colombian culture is like it's like a sport that is practiced in the eastern Spain, almost in Murcia, and it's quite particular because it's a race of pigeons, which is not based on speed but desires. There's one female, and the winner is the one who spends more time with a female pigeon, not the fastest. So sorry, it's not Colombian but pigeon culture. So why did this draw your attention? Why did you dedicate a short film this? Well, I knew it because it's typical of my country, and it's quite fascinating that throwing a pigeon a female pigeon, and the whole competition is based on the seduction of animals. And it's a sport that is mostly men who participate, and you watch all these men looking at this very supposedly poetical thing, and the proportion of just one female to 200 male is quite shocking, actually. Let's see some images of Colombian culture. Well, we see some images of the pigeons, male pigeons. The names are quite fascinating. Grisman, Amon the Doll, my grandfather, those are the funny names. So besides the pigeons, you observe more the spectators, the male vision of that sexual game. Did you have the intention of letting the film play itself, or just create some parallelism between the behavior of the pigeons and the male? Well, yes, there's a clearly a line. I don't believe in objective, naive film. There's clearly an intention, because there's a person behind that who is watching and witnessing, and I'm fascinated besides the pigeons by because it looks. And it's a beautiful film, but I'm fascinated by the counterpart, opposing the vision of men, and that kind of brotherhood they create, because they hardly talk to each other, and it's like a speechless communication, and there's men from all ages, and it's like an accumulation of testosterone, which is fascinating and quite threatening or frightening at the same time. So that's what I try to put together in my short film. I don't know if I achieved my goal. The only narration, the only story is of the rules of the Colombian culture. Did you think about it from the beginning? Did you want to support the images with the rules of this sport, or did you think about it later to give it a structure? Yes, I thought about it on the edition phase. I'm a bit slow. It took me three years to do 20 minutes of substance, 20 good minutes. Well, I'm not sure if they're good, but the work was actually on the editing, in the edition, because it was in my village, and some people of my family are participating. So every time I went there, I filmed, and at some point I knew I had to finish the editing, but I didn't know how, because besides my intentions and this opposition of men and desire and different point of views of desire, like my point of view, theirs from. There were elements that didn't understand each other, because I don't think this sport is popular, the Colombian culture. So one of the referee offered me the rules of the sport, and I decided to do what you're not meant to do, something very archaic or something really basic, to use it as if it were a National Geographic documentary. But I selected. I did it on purpose. I used regulation, which is like the most boring thing in the world, but the articles in the regulation are selected, and I read them. And for me, it's important, because I don't believe in naive or objective film. It was a way of underlining my vision of the story I was telling about, or about the regulation. One of the very interesting of the films is that if a male pigeon is attracted by another male pigeon, it will be disqualified. Yes, it's actually part of the rules, and for me that was essential, showing how homosexuality is ruling that out. And this sport, which isn't supposed to be natural or based on a nature that is ancient, comes before human. And it's actually, no, it's a construction. Men use it as a representation, and they even put rules where homosexual pigeons are immediately disqualified. And I witnessed that, and they laughed about it. A man laughed about another man because his pigeon was queer. So I thought that was completely ridiculous. But I wanted to prove that it was in the manual. It must be a really thick manual. Well, it's not very thick, but that was very important. And did you show the film in your village? How did they react? Well, for me, it was they had a good reaction. That was one of my challenges. I wanted my point of view of this sexual social events is I have my own point of view of male sexism and male prejudice, especially in a southern Spain village. But on the other hand, I have affection for them. I love them. I love my characters. They're not characters. They're people. Some of them are part of my family. And I felt somehow annoyed to having to judge them. But in the space between judgment, your point of view, I was trying to respect them, not understand or share with them, because I couldn't reach that point, but just respect what they do. And in that conflict, my personal conflict that I try to place on the film, is that's the interesting part. Yes, of course, that's the interesting part, because you would have mocked them, you would have laughed at them, or had felt compassion for them. You find the balance. You love them. Yes, I love them. I respect them. I don't like what they do. It's a film in Salvaltegui. You won Pardino d'Oro in the Locarno Film Festival, so very successful. I think you're preparing your first feature film. I hope your first feature film makes you come back here in San Sebastián. If you have the chance, please, I really encourage you to go watch that film because of her vision. Thank you very much, Elena.
Bueno, pues hoy como tenemos 6 equipos, me vengo ahora con el quinto, que es un amigo.
6 teams today, and the 5th one is a friend who was here with us last year, José Luis Torres Leiva. He's presented in Salvaltegui sobre cosas que me han pasado, about things that happened to me. How are you? How are things going from last year? I'm really happy to be back in San Sebastián. You're immediately part of the family the first time you come. Sobre cosas que me han pasado, it's a documentary film that presented in Salvaltegui based on a film from writer Marcelo Matei. Why were you attracted by this film? Why did you decide to make it a film? It's a very special film, book, edited in Chile, released in Chile in the end of the 90s. He's not a writer, he's an hydraulic engineer, and he wrote a diary, a chronicle of a whole year of situations that are quite simple, very daily life situations that are not relevant, but they wrote them and reflected about them. But the reflection was also quite simple within that, for a simple vision. It becomes a book about a man who watches and observes everything he sees around him, and really daily things like watching the ocean or the sky or the sound of the street from his room. It's a book that was published at the end of the 90s because he typewritten and he sold it by hand, by himself, in the center of Santiago de Chile. And it reached some very well-known writers who found it was like a UFO in the writing, in the novel industry. So they edited in a very small edition, and they re-edited it in 2010. That's when I found it. I read it, because it's very easy to read. And then what really attracted my attention is that it was attacked, considering not being considered that it wasn't literature. It was about things that really nothing happened, and that was that really what drew my attention. It was like such a challenge to do a film about this. And how did you think about it? Did you just transcribe what the book tells, or did you tell a little bit further? Is there a debate? Do I illustrate or do I recreate? Well, it's both. I was interested in choosing and working on certain moments that at the time really provoked an answer to me or made me unsettled. But in a sense, it's also an illustration of what he tells, the story he tells. I wanted to work with this in a literary sense. Hitchcock used to say that film is life without the most annoying moments, but in this case, you've chosen the most annoying moments and made a film out of this. So I think this is a challenge, and I think this is just a song to the transcendence and to detail. Yes, I think the beautiful thing about the book and the beautiful about doing this short film is how the character puts a nice or makes something extraordinary out of a simple thing, out of a little detail, and that's how I built the short film. Well, when I after watching the film, I was paying attention to little details, and I thought, this could be part of a film, because sometimes we overlook details and then we don't enjoy them because we just race from one place to the other, and we don't pay attention to what's around us. Last year, Anna's Dream, that was your film, and that film was like a prelogue to a feature film. How is it going? Yes, we're starting to film it in January, so I'm happy to have that project in an advanced stage. So next year you might have with your feature film. I hope so. Well, anyway, we hope to have you here because you're already part of the family. Thank you very much, José Luis.
Bueno, pues nuestro último invitado.
Our last guest from today is Joaquín Cociña. He's also from Chile, and before coming, I asked them if they know each other, and they said yes. They work with the same producer. La Casa Lobo, the Wolf House, a film. He's an experimental animation film that he's been working on for 5 years already. Well, hello, good afternoon. I don't even say hello. I start speaking about the film. And I think it's a very interesting film from the theme and from the form and how the experiment and the animation work together. This stop motion on paper is a very difficult technique. You've been working on it for a long time. Well, hello. I'm here to represent Cristóbal León because we co-direct the film. I have to say that Catalina should also be here because she ran away. She's at this very moment she's fleeing. Catalina Vergara. Well, the film it's filmed in stop motion. It's a film that's moving objects and photography, and it's a technical that it's slow on its own. But this film was especially slow because we filmed or recorded photographies for 5 years. It's a scene sequence, one single shot. And not really. It's fake because it's stop motion. But the film took us longer than usual because we filmed it in public space, partly on our workshop, but on 12 different locations: museums, galleries, cultural centers. We transformed the process on our artwork on its own. So it was 5 years of production where we didn't spend 5 years secluded in a cave like monks. So you film with public around you. The people could watch you filming. Yes. We open we open it to people. We talk to people if they were. If you watch the film, you're going to see the animation assistant list is eternal because everybody who was there helping a hand for more than 2 days became part of the list of assistants. So people who come here, oh, I'm interested to help. Can I help? And we immediately welcome them. So we pay them lunch, and that was it. So the aesthetic of the film is quite original. So let's watch a few images.
A nuestro alrededor se debe principalmente a la ignorancia. Espero que puedan apreciar un poquito más a nuestra humilde colonia.
Afuera hay un lobo. ¿Hay algún chileno aquí? Hola, vengo de la colonia.
Voy a transformar a mi cerdito en criatura hermosa que nunca me abandonará. Desde hoy son Pedro y Ana. ¿Qué les parece si jugamos?
So here this is one of the images of La Casa Loba, the House of Wolf. It's a terror film, a little girl who just runs out of sect, and it's based on a real story, Colonia de Dignidad, who has all the elements of a terror fairy tale. Yes, Colonia Dignidad was well, now it's called Villa Babera, and it has another organization which is a little bit more open. But Colonia Dignidad was a sect founded in the 60s in Chile by a group of Germans guided by Paul Schaeffer, who was escaping Germany to Chile because he was accused of pedophily, of abusing children. He was also a Nazi, but Colonia Dignidad is usually presented as an ex-Nazi colony, but the structure is based on child abuse and religion, satisfying Paul Schaeffer with children. And this colony worked as a colony or as a sect, as a closed sect, like a country within a country, with their own rules and regulations from the beginning of the 60s until the end of 20th century. It's also linked to the military government of Pinochet, which is totally true, but it also existed with Allende and the following governments from the 1989 to the end of the 20th century. Nothing did anything about it. So the girl just runs away. And there's references to the Grimm brothers and terror films. Yeah, like with Cristobal, we wanted to do a film that was, instead of going against this sect, we did it as if we had been the production company of the film, of the sect itself. So like a Nazi child abusing Walt Disney. So that we thought that was it's a structure like at Walt Disney, where the blondes are better than the darker people, like Frozen. You don't have to turn on many things to create. To make a fairy tale like into a terror tale. Yes, your characters speak with German accent. Yes, in the colony they didn't speak German. Some of them, the ex people who belong to the sect, people who look like you or even darker, like more Arab or Mapuche, and they still speak with a German accent. So we decided that the film, where the narrator, who is like sort of a Paul Schaeffer, when he speaks to Maria, they talk in German. And when these two characters talk to the rest, to us, to you, they speak in Spanish with a German accent. And regarding the art, the art design, did you have a reference, or did you create it from start? I can't see any familiar references. Like every time we are asked this, they have to mention Jans van Meyer, and not because he's still alive. He's old, but like my 4-year-old child says, he resists. He's a Czech animator who called himself, at least back then, like a surrealistic animator, and it's a clear reference. There's many references, but I think The film is also the end of a process, of a research process, documentation process that started 10 years back, where we did some shorts in a very instinctive way. But what we decided to do at the end is treat animation like a spiritism act, where the most important thing is what isn't there, our bodies in the space. It's filmed on a real scale, so when you see the furniture that are broken, it's true action. So the aesthetic of the film comes from our decision, also from our financial, because we work with debris, with objects that we found on the trash. We like things that are not perfect. When you mean real scale, you mean the tables? Yes, there's two scenes where there's things that are small, animation things, but on a shot sequence, the camera constructs it. You see that there are little things, but they're actually real furniture, real rooms, and sometimes the Muppets build each other or morph. Those are more or less real. And this construction you do with the hands is kind of curious. So we hope you do other films, and we can help you out and be in your assistant list. Thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you to every crew that has been here with us. It's been a pleasure to find you, and we hope to see you again in the future in San Sebastián, in ZINEMALDIA, in Encuentros. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Also for those of you who meet us online. Thank you very much. See you soon.